Each month, myself and other Irrational Passions members will play through a new game. Modern to retro, obscure to popular. Games we've played before and those we haven't. We'll be hitting checkpoints as we go and discussing our experiences. Play along with us and join in the discussion. This is Video Game Book Club. Welcome everybody back to Video Game Book Club. This is once again episode 2 of Bioshock 2, and I'm once again your host, Scott, joined by Mr. Logan Wilkinson, the picker of Bioshock. Me. How's it going?
Hi, hello, it's me. Bioshock 2 is a video game, turns out.
Sweet. I did not realize that. Mr. Alex O'Neill rocking his Avengers time suit thing.
Time suit. My man, I am time suit man. I'm here to talk about Rapture and my good friend Andrew Ryan.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
not in this game.
Listen. He's in our
He's
memories
mentioned.
all the time.
Yeah.
He's got some statues.
Dead.
We went through his
Spoilers.
amusement
He's dead.
last week, or last time.
That's true.
It's true.
And, of course, Mr. Mike Burgess. How's it going, Mike?
He's dead like me.
Whoa.
Set me free.
Set me free.
The sweet
Nothing but
release.
positivity here on Video Game Book Club, as you can tell. But yes, this is the second checkpoint. We had to play through Dionysus Park, up through from starting at the end of Ryan's Amusement up through the end of Dionysus Park. A bit of a thick boy segment. It was thick.
I warned you last time that it's gonna be a significantly longer section than the
Yeah,
first one.
it was.
It made sense though.
Yeah.
Going through it, I'll say it did make sense.
Yeah. It never felt too long, but you could definitely tell it was longer than the first one. But as basically a quick rundown of the events up through this checkpoint. So we leave Ryan's Amusement, and Sophia Lamb locks down the train station, and you have to find the override key, which turns out is with a woman named Grace, who I thought her story was really interesting. How Sophia Lamb gave Eleanor basically when Sophia Lamb basically was taken away to like prison, I think it was, or like locked away, I think was implied.
Kind of thing,
Exiled.
yeah.
That Lamb gave Eleanor to Grace to take over because she couldn't have kids. So I thought that was really cool. But she basically ran this giant crazed family in the Sinclair Deluxe Hotel, which you had to basically storm, taking out splicers on your way up through meeting Grace, where you got an interesting choice to either spare or kill Miss Grace. What did you guys all pick?
I spared her.
I spared her.
Same.
I really thought about it though. I'll be honest. if I'm gonna be real with y'all, I'm glad I spared her. But there was a moment because I'm like, I'm trying to be myself, be true.
The first time I played it, I spared her as well. Yeah.
Yeah, this lady sucks though, and like it does pay off if you spare her, and I think there's good payoff there, and I'm sure it would have been less satisfying if I had killed her. But I was like really because. Keep in mind, just think about my playthrough of this section having replayed through the whole first part as well, and then powering through and playing through. I played about 10 hours of Bioshock 2 straight on Sunday, just for everybody's point of reference.
Oh yeah,
There was a
dedication.
moment where when I got to her, I was like, man, I am not in the mood for this. Fun fact, I just wanted to point out, one of my, if I took notes, would have been notes. It's like one of like maybe 3 times you're actually in a room with another character in all of Bioshock history.
Yeah.
There's Bioshock 1 and 2. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought her being the adoptive mother, basically, of Eleanor, I thought was an interesting take. I think a lot of the issues could have been solved if the main character just talked a little.
Yeah.
It's cool too because at the end of basically the last section where we're at Ryan's Amusements, you pick up her audio diary that like introduces that character and gives a backstory of like her and her like husband and everything and like their relationship and like he gets abducted and then her kind of like fear and Andrew Ryan then like go in the direction of Sophia Lamb, and so it was a nice kind of tease from last time too.
Oh yeah. After we get back to this, we have to then fight our way back out of the hotel. After sparing or killing Grace, I spared her as well, so we were all good boys. Got out, and then we got on our submarine, and it got shot down by a torpedo. as they do. And we had to...
I was surprised by that, I will say. I forgot all about this. So.
I totally forgot that too, that happened.
Me too. No idea.
First run through, no idea.
No idea. Little anticlimactic, I will say. It's like I expected a bit more damage or something from a torpedo directly hitting head on, but...
And, like, Sinclair's fine.
Yeah.
He was in the other room. He'll be all right.
I definitely thought about that too.
I'm running it.
There's a whole lot of that.
My air's running out, but I'll be okay.
I did enjoy the fact that, like, what I like about Bioshock 2 that 1 never does and 3 doesn't do because it's set in a different city is getting us, like, actually outside of Rapture, like, getting to, like, see, like, actual, like, foundation part of it, like, in, like, the water itself and explore that because we are a Big Daddy. Like, it is kind of one of the things that we mentioned in the last episode where it's, like, it doesn't feel like you're a big daddy at times, and like those are moments where it's like, oh man, like I am a big daddy, like I am somebody who can just like walk about and just who could get hit fucking head on by a torpedo basically and be like, all right, cool, I'm just gonna go dick around in the ocean now for a while here and pick up some atom slugs and do that good jazz.
Yeah. Oh shit, I forgot to pick up atom slugs. That like, I'm in a similar boat where it is a surprising moment. It's like obviously the action of it kind of hindered and it doesn't look super great, but like any excuse they have to kind of throw you off your feet and get you in the water and really surprise you of walking around outside of Rapture, like I'm kind of interested in. So
for sure.
I was definitely into it.
I agree. So from there we have to, because we're still trying to get to Dionysus Park, but we have to go to a pump station to lower the water so we can get to the park because the park has been flooded, which you'll find out more of why later on. But so we have to go to Siren's Alley, and this is where we encounter the priest Wallace, was it?
Wells,
that was it. Who's bouncing around, and you need this gene recording camera so you can break stuff and get to the pump room, shoot some people, shoot some big sisters, and eventually you confront Wells, and you find out that Wells and his brother are actually the architects of Rapture, which I thought was very cool. And you have to deal with both of the brothers to get to the pump station where you lower the water, but then Sophia Lamb overloads the pumps and starts flooding your section, and you have to do a escape-like thing, but there's no real timer on it. I think this section would have served well if there was a timer to it, and kind of like you had to get out in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, but it's also like weird because like they're you literally before you do this section you're like walking around in water totally fine, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna flood this entire thing. And you're just gonna be able to walk around it anyway because it's all water.
It's like
it kind of felt like exactly. It's like your second was just kind of like, I'm gonna flood this place. You're screwed, and it's like, no, actually, I'm good. Actually,
I walked around the ocean floor, so
like it was a cool scene when you're walking back through like the areas as it's like slowly flooding, and then you go back to the big open kind of Siren Alley kind of actual alleyways and walkways and stuff, and it's like all flooded and. You're like walking through it. It's cool, but it was just kind of like okay.
There's no sense of dread or like tension because, like you said, Mike, you've been out underwater before. Like to get to this area, you were out underwater, and now it's just flooding an area you could walk through. So I don't quite understand Sophia Lamb's like plan as to why that would suddenly do you in, but.
Yeah, it works though, just in its effective of like this. This is something that I feel like we've thought about in Bioshock forever. Of like, man, what happens if it goes bad? And like, you get to live that. And it's very cool. I think like we talked a lot last week, or last episode, just talking about like if you were not a Big Daddy character.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too.
I think that there could have been more interesting stakes here, but I still like being able to walk around Rapture.
But I think that this is another case of like, again, if we were just Jack from Bioshock 1, that whole section we couldn't have done, right? Like if we would have died then, right? Like it's the fact that it is like, yeah, like maybe the stakes aren't as high because we're a Big Daddy, but also because we're a Big Daddy, we get this cool kind of evolve in the world where we get to kind of explore and go back through again. And so I dug it. Like it, because like Mike said, like it is a really cool, like kind of series of scenes you just like walk back through now. Like cool, it is really neat. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but we leave Siren Alley behind, the brothel and red light district basically of Rapture, and we head to the now drained Dionysus Park. That was like this area that it was Sophia Lamb's, basically her research test home, where she ran a bunch of sociological experiments basically. And things happened, and then the whole place got flooded and killed a bunch of people. And I have to say, so far, this area felt the most lazy to me. Mm-hmm. Because it was just kill 3 Big Daddies. Like, yeah, I like the story that was involved with it, but how it was done felt incredibly lazy to me compared to even Sirens, where you interact with and have to deal with the different brothers and do the pump station. This was just kill 3 basically mini bosses, you know? It felt lazy compared to the rest of the game for me. I don't know about how you guys felt.
It's weird because like I feel like in Bioshock 1 they would have like hidden the mechanical objective a lot better. Like they would have said, oh, you need to get here, but you have to take out 3 Big Daddies along the way. Or like in a more modern video game, I think you would have built a little bit of a mini narrative around each Big Daddy. Of like, oh, you're going into, I hear there's a little sister in like Frank's apartment, and then you go up an apartment building and you learn more about the character of the room that you're going into, and then when you get there it's like a little environmental story told, and then there's also the fight, right? Where this is way more like, hey, just go take care of 3 things, and you do get more as you do it, like the memories through the atom and everything is cool, but they don't really hide the fact that you're just kind of checking off some boxes. And I think like this is, we'll kind of talk about it maybe, this is like my biggest problem with Bioshock 2 is like getting a little sister to spawn is like the worst fucking thing in the world. I don't know if any of you guys had any trouble with this, but there were 2 times now where I'm like following a Big Daddy around waiting for him to spawn a little sister, and it just doesn't happen, and I have 1 little sister left in the area, and I'm like, I do not want to waste any more time on this. I'm just going to the next area.
I did notice that sometimes some Big Daddies didn't have a little sister with them, but I haven't focused too much on finding everyone in a level, so I guess it didn't bug me as much.
I was gonna say I didn't do that either, really.
I've done finding everyone in a level, which is partially why I think my game, it sounds like, and your game is taking longer than Scott and Mike's, Alex. I've been lucky in that I've never... I've seen the ones who don't have any, but it's either before, like, I really am, like, heavily, like, invested in that part of the thing, of, like, getting them all knocked out, or it's, like, after I've already done it, so I don't have to worry about it still. Because, like, usually it'll be, like, you can kind of go to where it's like they're in like different sections, and like each one of those will have their own Big Daddy and like a little sister combo. At least for me, so it's never been too big of an issue. What I will say is that I hit a point. I think it was Siren's Alley when I first got there, and like because you immediately see a Big Daddy there, basically like that's like, which is a cool step piece. So like him just like fucking those splashes up right off the bat. But like, so you immediately see that one there, and I just kind of let him dick around after that for a bit while I kind of explored. But it was like fighting him and then like hitting the menu and being like, there are like 3 here, and it's like, like, all right, like I love the Big Daddy fights, and they're always great. But like for me, it's a thing of an issue between this and 2 is that, or this and 1 is that in 1 fighting the Big Daddy and then the decision you involve with little sister is like cool, and now it's done. Whereas this, like the added act of like carrying them around for the thing and like finding the atom and like they'll like it was really aggravating at the end of like the area with Grace, like that section where I timed it badly. It turned out where like I grabbed a like. I think I fought like the final thing to fight in the thing. So like I fought the last like boss guy or whatever. And was like, cool. I have a Big Daddy left. I have like enough stuff to where like I'm just gonna get it done with and do the Big Daddy thing. And did that. Fought the Big Daddy and was like, cool. Now I have to do these 2 Atom Run things. Did that and was now like, cool. I'm weak, but it's like fine because I'm done. And I'm just gonna like go to the station and be done with this kind of thing. And then once I put the little sister in the like tube, whatever, to go back home after like I had saved her, I was like, cool, lit. I'm gonna finish up now. And at that time, it spawns a big sister. And I was like, fuck, I don't have like I wasn't ready for this. And like I managed to survive by like the skin of my teeth. But it was like, this is annoying now. Like now it's like, this is a lot of fights back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
Where I didn't have a chance to like ever really like replenish my supplies. And in particular, like the like doing the Atom runs, and then it just immediately spawns the like big sister was like, that was annoying. Like I know it's in one of our notes later on, but it's like I don't hate the big sister fights, but I hate that they're done like that.
Yeah.
Are they random spawns?
It spawns after you've done all the little sisters.
It spawns after you've done the little sisters.
Yeah, it just they just spawn randomly because I do not because like I haven't like fully cleared out an area as we've gone through these games. Sometimes I'll just be like doing whatever in the middle of a mission, and then it'll just be, and you'll get like the big sister scream, and it'll just be like a big sister's coming, prepare, and then I'll just set up the fight a big sister wherever I'm at, or just kind of wait for her to show up and dump whatever I have to do her.
If you're not clearing the whole areas, it'll spawn the big sister after the next round of little sisters is done.
Yeah.
So like for me now, because I've missed 2, it's like halfway through each area's little sisters is when it'll spawn the big sister. Because I'm basically hitting that background number total that will spawn the next big sister fight.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's more like a count of the counts of the sisters you get, and
yeah, essentially if you're doing everything, when you do the last little sister in an area,
it'll happen then.
Sister. But for me now, it's like after 2 little sisters in an area, it'll spawn the big sister. But yeah, I remember this is the only thing now, like muscle memory coming back to me of playing Bioshock 2 from before, is like waiting around for the last little sister to spawn, and then like following Big Daddies. Like Big Daddies will kind of spawn in the other part of the area at random that you're not in, and going there and like following them around to the little vents, watching them knock, and then nothing happening, and then having to guide and lead them to another vent, and then trying to get them to spawn one and nothing happening. And it was like to the point where when the torpedo hits the sub, and it's like, oh shit, I forgot about this. I have to do this area. I literally said like, I do not have time for this, because again, I was like 9 hours into my session at that point or whatever. And then you go to that other area, and it's just me, because like in the Siren's Alley, the last thing you do is like pull a lever, and that like activates the flooding. And I'm just like trying to get a big sister to spawn for about 2 hours, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just skipped it, and I hate doing that. But like, I feel like I vaguely remember, and maybe it's like a tonic that you get later, like being able to go up to the vents yourself and knock on it and spawn a little sister. But
that sounds
it sounds like a late game ability that you might get. And I remember that just being so much easier. But you can't come back to any of these areas as far as I remember.
You can.
So like for the most part, like at least that flooded area, I know I'm never gonna get that last little sister there. And it's super frustrating for me just because like of how I like to play games. But yeah, this is like that was an issue I had before. It's an issue I have now of just like the spawning the little sisters and then getting everything to come together at the end is really frustrating.
And for me, it's a weird one because I like the little sister idea in principle, and even like in execution, but it's just that thing of like they're doing like a similar amount of them. I feel like maybe like a few more than in Bioshock 1, but again, Bioshock 1 it was like cool, fight the big daddy, and then now save it or like harvest little sister. That's it. And here, the fact that it is so much more intuitive makes the fact that like, all right, well, doing the same amount actually equals doing like 5 times more work while throwing in a big sister too. And it's like, all right, like you could have done like realistically, like I'd have been fine if they just done like 1 big daddy little sister thing for each area, and that'd have been fine. 2 would have been like, all right, cool, but like 3, and then like there will be like spoiler, there's gonna be areas where there's like 4 near the end of the game, and it's like I'd forgotten about that, and like Alex mentioned him like knocking thing is like, all right, like that the moment for me was like the big sister coming out and be like, fuck, I remember this. I remember getting to the end of each area being like, cool, I have 1 or 2 of these left now, because I usually just like leave at least a few of them for the end to clean up. And then it's like, and now here's the slog. I was like doing this, and like in my head, when I was doing that for like Grace's area, I was like, do I do this? Like it was in like it was in my head, like how like, do I do this? Do I commit to just doing all of them, or do you be like, I can't? And
Yeah,
like ultimately I was like, all right, I can do this, but like it was also a decision of like, this is the part that's not fun right now. Like and it's a thing like, this is not enjoyable. Like or like certainly could be done better, right? Like and like again, there's a lot of shit about like the big sisters is maybe the people like is like honestly is the thing that I hear the most people talk shit about this game for. I don't hate those fights. Like I think the fights are like I don't think they're as good as the Big Daddy fights, but I also think it's just like that's an unfair like kind of equation too, because Big Daddies were like so famous and like iconic, but like I think they're really cool and fun, and like they feel way like more like frenzied than the Big Daddies do at times, because it's just like they're just fucking everywhere, like because they're so much quicker. But like doing them in addition to everything that you like build up to that is like, this isn't fun, right? Like when it is just like, if I just had them randomly happen, I would honestly like that more than at the end of me like slogging through all these like Adam runs and fighting the Big Daddy before that, and then getting me like, cool, I'm done now. I have like 1 like first aid kit maybe, and like a third of my like ammo still, maybe best case scenario. And it's like, then getting one is like, all right, it's basically just me like running to the nearest like hacked bot station, just like camping out there to get help from them while they try to like hold on for dear life, because like it's always badly timed. But like
there doesn't seem to be a very good like reward to the little sister fights.
Yeah, it's just more Adam.
It's
more Adam, which does all the upgrade stuff and like tonics.
Yeah, but, like I feel like it should be significant. I think the little sister or big sister fights would be more interesting if you could run away from them. I guess technically you can't. You leave the area, but I feel like if there was more of like a stealth aspect to it, I think it might be a little bit more interesting.
Yeah,
and again, I think like we talked about on the last episode, I think the reason there isn't like a stealth option is because this is them being like, all right, Bioshock 1 did Big Daddies. What is our Big Daddy version of this, right? And it's like, we have new Big Daddies, but also it's this. It is the big sister. Is our like, here's how we're like challenging Bioshock 1's kind of thing. And I think it's hit or miss. And like based off like most reaction I've heard from it, it's largely missed. But like, I don't know. I think the way that they like, because you'll learn more about like the story of Big Sisters like as it goes on, and like I think that part of it is really cool, right? Like if she is like, you learn more about Big Daddies in this game too. It's like that's all neat and that's all cool, and I like that. But like I almost wish that the Big Sisters were almost like the Songbird from Infinite, was like there was just one of them, like there was just one Big Sister. I think that'd have been really cool. Like you maybe like sporadically fight throughout the game, like in a few instances, but like never beat until like the very end. That could have been really cool, and that could have been really neat, and like I'd have been way more interested in that idea than having like a bunch of them, especially because I feel like anytime you like, you'll just see them in the background, because like if you look at like any ocean scene, there's usually just like one camping there. That's super cool. Like the fact that like she's like always watching you and always kind of following you, like always in the shadows and everything. And like when you like get knocked out by the submarine, there's one like just like shoots off really quick. That's all really cool. But like when there's multiple of them, it kind of takes away from that. And it's like, well, it's less creepy, I feel like, and it's less kind of terrifying and like ominous than if there'd just been like one of them.
Yeah, it makes it more, it makes it feel more that you've stumbled onto one and not so much you're being hunted by
and like followed, right?
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
But let's move on to our soapbox topics. Alex, this week we will start with you.
I wanted to bring up, and I like if in the Google Doc, I don't know how many of you read it. It's just like this weird, like sporadic,
I love it,
explosion of thought onto the paper. I like, so like one of the best things about Bioshock 1 is Andrew Ryan, like front to back, obviously.
Yes.
And how much of a hypocrite he is. Like it's, you know, he makes this sovereign nation for people like him who felt stifled to be free creatively, and then as soon as people get too creatively free, he's like, well, this is my place and I don't want you to be as free as I am. And it's like this kind of thought that goes through Ryan's head and is the kind of cornerstone of that game of what is freedom and what does it mean to make your own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Lamb as like a contrast to that of like, I guess I don't necessarily know all the isms as well as maybe you would, Logan. I guess she's more of like a socialism,
like a socialist and a collectivist. Yeah,
like
Maybe
we're
kind
all
of
in this
monikers.
together. You know, like
Mhm.
we're all cogs in the wheel, and we all have to kind of contribute.
Mhm.
And I think she sees herself as part of that, much like Ryan kind of saw himself as part of that. But I really
Absolutely.
like the little ways that they kind of pull her hypocrisy out, as opposed to Ryan's, which was like you walk into the lighthouse at the beginning of Bioshock 1, it's like the Great Chain, and it's a
Yeah.
giant
Mhm.
statue of Ryan. It's like, I feel like this dude's probably not preaching practicing what he preaches. This is a lot more subtle, and
Yeah.
it's a lot more through characters. Like, I like that sparing Grace
Mhm.
is like the big kind of moment for that, and we all did it. So luckily we can all talk
Mhm.
about it. I'm really honestly now curious, dialogue wise, what happens when you don't spare her. I'm sure it's just like Lamb telling you that you're the monster you're always meant to be, blah blah, blah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I like Grace's response is like, you sparing me tells me that you thought about that, and that tells me that you are not what Sophia told me you were. And now I have a lot to think about. I also like that when you go to Siren's Alley and beat the Wales brothers,
Mhm.
like Sophia's reaction is to flood that place, which is exactly what I can't remember his name, the Tweedle guy, did to Dionysus Park to hide, his secrets, which turns out Sophia ended up knowing about the whole time. So I like this idea that she used this thing that was
Mhm.
literally used against her, against you, and we all like had the kind of same reaction of like, this seems pretty fruitless.
Yeah.
Did you guys spare or save or kill the wily guy? By the way,
I spared him
spared him.
because he gets like killed anyway. I think it sounds like some dudes just roll up on him as soon as you leave. So I guess it's like a merciful death or a non-merciful death. So I gave him the non-merciful death.
Mhm.
Um,
I lit him on fire.
Did you really?
nice, dude.
Mike
I was
fucking murdered
like-
this guy.
Once again,
Like,
I really
whatever.
thought about it.
At that point, it was just like I wanted to see if there was an actual difference because like I wanted to see if like murdering him
Mm-hmm.
would like make the next moment like they'd be like, oh, you took out that dude because of that. Like it kind of made it clear, but like I guess we'll see more so for sure.
Yeah, it's
But like
what I love.
like,
One of my
initially.
things that I love about Bioshock 2 is that these decisions will come back in a way where you will be reminded of them very like vividly later on. These decisions of like who you choose to keep or not keep, in a manner that the original Bioshock also did, but it really only had one moment where you could kind of choose something. Like not kind of Little Sisters, there was like one person you could kill or not kill, basically. And Bioshock 2 really expands on that and like also utilizes it in a way cooler way. Like Bioshock 2's endings are like really neat when we get to that. Like there are multiple ones like Bioshock had. And I think it's just really interesting how this stuff pays off, like what it does with it. And like what, like in particular for me, because when I played this game the first time, I had like, I did everything. Like I play games like the good part. Like I try to do like what I think is right, and getting to the end of the game the first time and like doing like the good thing every time except for one where like what I thought was the right decision was actually the bad one, and seeing how that pays off was really cool, and seeing like the like imagery that is used to kind of show that to me is really neat. And so like even the ones like it's kind of cool because like sometimes like the good quote unquote decision is not necessarily one you think it is, and like I like that too.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I don't remember how this game ends at all. I remember one thing from the third act that I thought at the time was very cool, and I think it actually comes back into play in the DLC as well. But yeah, I don't know. I like Sophia as a character. I like her as a foil to Ryan.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of bring her up and get a feel from the room of how everyone else feels about Sophia, how they feel about her, if you have the point of comparison to Andrew Ryan. Mike, do you have any strong feelings about Sophia Lamb?
Honestly, like not necessarily. but mostly because I think, like you said, a lot of it ties back to Bioshock 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so long since I played Bioshock 1 that, like, I remember the names, but, like, a lot of the, like, context for everything that's going on, like, is not, like, fresh in my mind necessarily. Um, I guess ultimately I'm interested to see. I do remember, like, some of the later stuff in 2 and, like, some of, like, specifically some of the ending stuff, so I'm interested to see how it's expanded upon in
Mm-hmm.
that sense. But in terms of, like, Sophia, like, she seems like you said, she, like, I remember small bits and pieces of, and obviously, like, the big twists and things of Bioshock, the original, but I can kind of see from that angle, like, how she's kind of didn't want to be this kid person, but now she just kind of is that person, so to speak. So I kind of see that, how she kind of is falling into that similar role. So I'm curious how that will continue.
Yeah. I'm curious, Scott, as someone who didn't play Bioshock 1.
Yeah.
I think there are some of these in Infinite, like the kind of emphasis on the isms of the world, the socialisms, the capitalisms. I think it is more like, what I like about Infinite too is that it is much more like religious focused, and
Yeah.
it gets into other kind of strong stances of the 50s, 40s, 30s time period. And obviously Infinite said before all that. How do you feel about, like, Sophia's kind of socialist slant, and also, like, the kind of emphasis on all these political topics in Rapture?
I guess I'm not picking up too much of kind of the political tones in this game. So much as, I guess Sophia Lamb still strikes me as just kind of a evil doctor lady who's trying to keep you from Eleanor. And I guess I wish there would be more interaction, or there would have been more interaction by this point between the two than just, you've fallen into my trap, Delta, or, I'm going to get you now, Delta. You won't get Eleanor.
That's very fair.
So I guess I'm not picking up too much of the political tones or, like, that angle. But at the same time, I'm not really looking for them. So,
I mean, like,
honestly, I've been more interested by Grace and kind of her story.
Yeah.
Much more than I am with Lamb.
That's fair, too, because, like, Bioshock 1 opens with, like, this, like, played video of Andrew Ryan saying, like, at the Kremlin, they decide what you do because it's communism. In the United States, they decide what you do. It's capitalism. And if in Rome, they decide what you
Vatican,
do. Because the God chooses. And it's like, is the man not entitled to sort of... It's much more, like, straightforward and upfront about, like...
It's much more in your face.
In your face, yeah.
Ryan is a much more obvious political figure, and I think Lamb is not exactly a political figure. She's kind of made out to be more like a cultish figure. So I get that. I didn't know if you, because you have kind of, like, I would say, the freshest perspective of any of us. So I wasn't sure what you'd felt from it. What about Grace, like, really gets you?
It was, even though she ran, like, a maniacal kind of cult family, once you really realize and get the audio log on why she's so protective and her connection, why she's so angry at you, it's like, okay, I can kind of see it. You know, how Eleanor was basically her surrogate daughter, like, she was given it, and how she had always wanted a child but couldn't have one, and so she has that connection with Eleanor as, like, a mother, but then to have lost and had this child of not only that she cared for, but that she was also in charge of protecting from Lamb, a person she idolized. It's like, I understood it. Like, she never came across to me as someone who's just being evil or doing these crazy things for crazy or evil sake. And when she, after sparing her, how she kind of admitted that what she thought was wrong and had like a miniature redemption, not redemption so much, but a moment of clarity and just, oh man, I've been going about this wrong. I just thought that was much more powerful than what I've seen from Sophia Lamb so far, who's just, I'm not gonna let you get Eleanor, so I'm gonna flood this, or I'll send these after you. Foiled again, you know.
Yeah.
There's one audio
omnipotent voice that just kind of is like,
I'm a big
fan. Remember this?
I'm the bad guy or bad woman.
There is one audio log from this section that I really liked, which was like the press conference between Ryan and Lamb. Like the two of them talking back and forth in the crowd, like being much more in Lamb's favor than Ryan's. So I think like they're trying to like set her up as like such a big figure. I think it's just like she has the unfortunate like responsibility of standing in Ryan's shadow, both intentionally and unintentionally. So I get that though. What about you, Logan?
Yeah, it's interesting. Scott actually said something that I kind of really resonated with, and your whole topic is like kind of led to what like I think mine is going to kind of just de facto turn into, which is the fact that like Andrew Ryan, it's weird because he had the one audio log from that first kind of section, but he's mentioned like his spirit is still so large. I mean, like, we literally went through his amusement park, but like his spirit is so large and so like omnipresent. And then hearing Scott talk about the fact that like he just doesn't see like Lamb in the same light, like doesn't see Lamb as like the same kind of way, remind me of the fact that like like we don't actually hear from Lamb that much, especially compared to like how often Andrew Ryan was fucking on the radio in Bioshock 1. Like Andrew Ryan was like always communicating. He was always talking. Like him and Atlas were always going back and forth, giving you kind of different like stories and advice and like trying to like shape the trajectory of where you were going, right? Like it was a constant back and forth from the two of them. And like in the case, and like Bioshock 2, that should be the case for Sinclair and Lamb. But like they'll just go long stretches and hear from neither one of those characters. If Sinclair is like sort of like the de facto Atlas and was like giving you advice and like where to go and what to do next, his is like demonstrably smaller and more insignificant than what Atlas was in terms of like the story's arch and narrative at this point in time and like just role in your life basically. And Lamb, is like she's talking to you way less often than Ryan did. You're picking up way less audio logs from Lamb than you have from Ryan. Like I've like picked up almost every audio log I can, and A, they're fewer than in Bioshock 1, and B, they're fewer that involve her character, right? Like especially in Grace's area, where it's like they were like all about that character. They were all about like Grace and getting her involved in like characters related to Grace. And then when you get to like the next area with the Wells brothers, it's all about their kind of like dynamic and how like Simon like became ultra religious and his brother never did, and then like kind of their falling out and how they try to like deal with that. And again, Sophia just kind of noticeably not really involved in it. Like that all just stuff that happened and she wasn't really involved in, aside from like Simon becoming religious. But even that is like he did it thanks to her, and then she kind of just was there, right? Like so it's like a way more decentralized, I feel like, kind of narrative antagonist than in Bioshock 1, where it was very much like it is Andrew Ryan. He was the person. But I feel like in the same manner, with the exception of Grace, and like I liked the Wells Brothers stuff. I thought that was really cool actually, but like even counting that, like the like kind of area bosses and kind of area big enemies you encounter, I still think were like leaps and bounds cooler in, at least like to this point in the game, of Bioshock 1, right? Like I think of like the crazed, unhinged doctor that is the first area you go to in Bioshock 1, and it still is terrifying to me. Like it still haunts me. Like that first area planet for the very first time was like truly terrifying, right? And then like
real quick, Logan, just when you go into Dionysus Park and it starts you in what's his face's like art
but
storage unit, do you get those chills?
Yeah, right. Again, that's who I was gonna say. Like, because again, like I was talking about the last episode. Like, that was my like favorite area of the entire game of Bioshock 1 was like the crazy like art, fashion, like designer guy, and then like he is such a like immediately visceral guy. The fact that, like that's like you could go the entire, you could not kill him. Like it's like possible to like beat Bioshock 1. Like I really have to like kill him. You just leave him like fucking dancing on the floor, and it's like that's super cool. And like Bioshock 2 has Grace, and she's really neat, and it's got the Wells brothers, but like, at least to this point, yet there's one coming up in particular for me, at least, that I know that I really love from Bioshock 2 when I played the first time, but like, to this point, yet we haven't gotten to anybody that's like, as like, stand out, which isn't necessarily a problem, except for the fact that like, Bioshock 2 isn't focusing as much on its big baddie. It is focusing like
on the
more on these kind of
cast.
smaller ones, and
It's
if they're
more
not
like
as
an
good,
ensemble.
if they're not as like kind of intimidating or terrifying or just like fascinating, then it becomes like, all right, well, like what is really like, what am I really driving forward here, right? Like, because even in like the Wells Brothers stuff, like I was like, these guys are cool and like interesting, but like the big standout for me from that area are the spider splicers and how they're fucking terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
How I didn't like them, like because like they would just like appear out of nowhere and like right, and like
those messed up melted faces.
yeah, and like that was like that was terrifying, like coming around the stairs and then like just seeing one like planted on the wall. And it's like first time like I really saw, and it just like launches at me. Like that was like I don't like that one bit, guys.
Ensemble's a really good way to put it, Mike. That's
yeah, and especially because like the spider splice, you keep seeing like flashes of them, and then like they'll disappear, and then like finally fighting the first one was like really cool, and then it's like the Wells guys are like neat, but also like all right, like for like Daniel Wells, like the other one, like I didn't even know I was fighting him until he was like halfway dead. Like I just like bumped into him basically. It was like we started fighting, and it was like, all right, this is the guy, I guess. Yeah, and it's like that's kind of a like anticlimactic boss fight. And so it's like it's a weird one, right? Like I get my step, I guess it's just like Andrew Ryan, like you said, Alex, literally from like the opening seconds of Bioshock is like this omnipresent kind of thing towering over you from the game. Like he literally is directing the course of what you're doing in this game in a manner that is just so different than Sophia Lamb, right? Like I said it last week, and it's like less true but still true of like, and in particular, like I'd love to know from Scott where it's like at this point in the game, like do you even know what Sophia Lamb is really trying to do? Like do you even know what her goal is? Do you even know what like her overarching like plan is really? And it's like in Bioshock 1, it's like Andrew Ryan, like his agenda is on a fucking statue when you enter into Rapture. It's there, right? And it, like Sophia Lamb is like, I know that she like isn't Andrew Ryan.
Eleanor's like the chosen one or chosen one-ish or something for
but like
some
we
purpose.
don't really know why, right? We don't really understand why, and it's like we know that she's like not Andrew Ryan, and we know that she like is a collectivist, but like besides that, it's like I don't know what your beef is really, and like I don't really understand the butterfly stuff really, and I don't really understand like around the wall yet really, and it's like part of that is like cool, like there's like a big mystery waiting to happen to like still solve, but also it's like man, we're not that early in this game anymore, right? Like we're like in the thick of it now, and it's like what are we like? Who are we like? Yeah, like where are we going? Like who are the big baddies? Like who are the villains? And it's like it's funny too because like for years I kept saying, man, Bioshock 2 ramps up really well and like it grows really well, and each level like gets better and better. And the one that I knew that I like wasn't the case for was like I always thought, well, Dionysus Park was a weird one, and like going through it again, it's like yeah, this is a weird one still because I feel like it just kind of like stops a lot of the momentum we'd had built, right? Because like Grace's area is cool, and the Wells Brothers area I think is really cool. Like that area is really neat. I loved that section a lot. And then you get to Dionysus Park, and it's like okay, this is just definitely like we're gonna like pull the brakes in this one. We're gonna slow it down, give you just some like big daddies to fight, and that's about it. And it's like neat, I guess. It's kind of cool.
I like the Dionysus Park environment a lot, though.
Yeah,
kind of big areas, like the big kind of I don't know what the word, like almost cathedral-esque areas.
Yeah.
I think like
there's like a big theater.
And the theater I thought was really cool. I like how because this place was flooded for a few years, like there's sand on the bottom floor all the way through, and then there's like barnacles and different pieces of coral just there now until it was, I suppose, recently unflooded. I interpreted that when you flooded the one area, it might have unflooded this area.
Yeah, the pump was to drain, I think, the water out of the park.
Yeah, you had to drain Dionysus Park. Initially, you were going to go over that part of it, with the submarine, but he got knocked down. Yeah, it's tough, and I hate to compare it to Andrew Ryan and Rapture, but I think it just speaks to how like present that villain is, and he's not really a villain. He's just like such an antagonist to your adventure.
Yeah, like you were saying, Logan, and I hadn't really thought of it, but when you said it was like, do I even know why, or like what Lamb's plan is? It's like, I don't really know why she hates us so much, besides just that we're trying to find Eleanor. Like, making her shoot, or her making us shoot ourselves in the beginning just to like get Eleanor back. I don't. Besides her being the villain and I'm the protagonist, I don't know her motivations too well.
One thing I remember from like the advertising, and again, this is I did this last episode, and hopefully not every episode, some revelation will be the cornerstone of the advertising for Bioshock 2. But I do remember like part of the antagonist for Bioshock 2, and I think it might feel a little bit like this by the end. I certainly don't feel it at all now, though. Is the idea of like the cult of Rapture is the antagonist? Like that Sophia Lamb has pulled together all of the people who live in Rapture in a way that Ryan never could, by kind of transforming the thought of the Splicers into a cult, right? And we talk about it multiple times throughout the game, and Eleanor will point out to you in her communications of like people, once they get to a certain point in their splicerness, just sacrificing themselves to the little sisters, to Sophia, for the greater good of Rapture, so that way their atom can be recycled and reused and etc. And the idea is all of Rapture is moving as one against you, because all of Rapture is under Sophia Lamb's control, because she's essentially mind controlled everyone with her therapy magic, which is just like proliferating this very archaic anti-therapy message in a weird way. That is something that they don't necessarily lean on it in the bad ways here, but it is something that has been rubbing me a little wrong as I've been going through, of like, oh, she's a psychologist, so she knows about the human brain enough that she can just
talk people into doing things.
Yeah, warp all of Rapture into being under her control. And there's more to it than that. Obviously, like, Adam has a really horrible effect on the brain and memory. Yeah. And also, like, when you use Adam, if someone else has used that Adam before, you absorb their memories, and it like fucks you up. And that's part of what makes splicers all fucked up. There's like a great audio log from the first Bioshock 1 of like a girl splicing up in a bathroom, and then she starts seeing shit that other people did, and she starts freaking out. So like I get it, and I think there's some trickery that you could do there to make it like okay. But it's just like all those things I just don't necessarily feel, and in the ways that I am supposed to feel them, of like the cult of Rapture. I feel like it has a little bit of a negative vibe to it, just in that this psychiatrist has manipulated all these people because she gets the brain more than everybody else, and psychiatry is a pseudoscience. Yeah. It's like I don't know like where we're going with this, but I like that idea that Sophia is this voice that everyone resonates with, right? I just don't know if they're getting there with it. And to be fair, we haven't gone through Sophia's part of the game, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We will do that, and in a similar way to Grace, we will kind of get her side of the story. Yeah. But we're just not there yet, It's fun playing through these games in sections, because like here in the middle, things are very muddy, and I don't know if another game that either we've played or like we will play or that we'll talk about. Like, I don't know if games are supposed to be this muddy in the middle. I'm like on the hook to find out what happens, but I don't know if I'm supposed to feel this bad about it right here, right now.
And like, to be fair, it's also it's that thing that people always kind of forget about, but it's also the thing like, and also like Bioshock 1's climax isn't the end of the game.
Yeah,
like most games are, right? Like there is like a section after that, right? And like, so they're also being paced a bit differently too, right? Where like Bioshock 1 was building towards a moment, and then there was just like stuff afterwards that like doesn't really matter. Like ultimately like that game ended with Andrew Ryan kind of thing. Whereas this is like very much building towards the end of the game. So it's like it's structured a bit different how it's paced and how the acts are formatted and like floated. So like the constant influx of Ryan makes a bit more sense because he's not in it after a certain point. And so like that's part of it too, right? And like I don't know. Yeah, like Alex, that's a really good point. Like there aren't a lot of games I think this point into the game where it's like quite as muddied, and like I don't know if it should be this muddied, but like it is also interesting to be in a situation where it's like, yeah, like it is very weird, right? And like that's the thing for me, because I played this game in a much more compressed like time schedule than we are playing it right now, where it's like I played it like over like a week, I think, like maybe a week and a half. And so like I was very much like, what is happening next? And like going like flowing like section to section to section, being like, where are we going? Like, what is this game? Because I wasn't quite sure. And then we start to kind of peel back the layers. It's like, oh wow, there's a whole hell of a lot to this game. And like it is interesting doing it like this, being like, man, I don't remember being this like, what are we doing? Like, where are we going? Like,
Scott,
what you up to, Sophia?
I'm curious where you're at with this guy, because I'm thinking like Thimbleweed Park, the last game we played, right? When we were in the middle, I feel like we were like
that was the strongest. Yes.
Yeah. And it was like we had like just gotten into the factory, which was this thing that we had like hyped up for the two parts of the game that we had played.
And then it just
dropped right at the end, right? Where I'm kind of hoping Bioshock 2 really pulls it together in the end.
Bioshock 2's last section is definitely the strongest.
Yeah, and that's what I remember it to be. And it very well could disappoint me now, years later.
Maybe,
but it's that's the thing I like about book club, is like the kind of stopgaps to like reassess how you feel about a thing.
Exactly.
Like,
that's why the checkpoint system is. That's why I like the checkpoints.
I'm really curious for the next game that you guys are playing. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but like how you feel like right at the beginning, how you feel at the middle, and then how you'll feel when it's over, right? Like
Scott's facial expression right there was like worth everything to me.
I was like, I already edited out Logan.
I'm not going to say what it is.
No. In the first episode, so I can edit it out of this one, baby.
But that's the thing I've come to appreciate with book club, having been on it multiple times now.
I think it's great too because it allows time for kind of like to breathe and to think on things, and I think to kind of reflect on it a bit more, as obviously having a conversation about it with 30 people does too. But it's interesting too because it's like, man, Bioshock 2, it's just a weird game, right? Like it's we said it in the first episode, and I think it remains true to the fact that like this game takes a long time not being Bioshock 1. And I think that's ultimately like kind of how I feel, which is like, man, this game just tries really hard to be Bioshock 1. And it stops, and it's like actually really cool in its own merits, but like it is Bioshock 1 or it tries to be, or like it tries to like just really connect it. And like when Mike was talking earlier in the episode, I was like, man, I can't imagine like playing this game and not have played Bioshock 1, right? And like Scott obviously has like mostly done that, but it's like there's so many characters who are like mentioned and referenced and talked about, and if you played Bioshock 1, go fuck yourself, basically. They give you no back, they give you no sort of like notes pick up or no, like even like diaries just like drop you into the deep end. It's like, here are these characters that were referenced and mentioned from the first game who've been dead for a decade now maybe, or just have left, and like you just have to know it, right? Like even like Tenenbaum is like a major massive character in the first game, and here you're just like, boom, you know.
I thought she was just a random character. I didn't realize she was a like, big character in the first one.
Yeah, it's like, here you go. She's like, because you know she is obviously, right? And it's like, well, I don't actually though. And it's like,
who is this?
Go to hell, right? Yeah, it sucks to be you, right? And it's like,
too bad.
We're about to get a Fontaine Futuristics, which is going to be like the place where it's like the most like, here's where a sequel can add depth to the thing that came before it, and it's a great part of this game. But like, it's, I don't know how well it's going to go over for you, Scott, as someone who didn't play 1, because it's so dependent on this character from 1, right?
Yes.
And we got
that area in particular,
we got, because the area after that is like all original Bioshock 2, and it's great. And it's a great like final area, but we got like an audio log from Frank Fontaine this section, and it's like such a cool moment because he's talking about how he fucking runs Rapture. But again, like that's stuff that is directly referencing things from the first game. And I don't know, it's like they don't make sequels like Bioshock 2 anymore. You know?
Yeah, like they don't make sequels like this in like games, but even like in like movies, like they don't make sequels like this anymore. Where it's like you just have to like, where the game like expects you to have played or know the first game, and it's like we are giving you no sort of like
the closest would be like the Marvel movies, but like even in that you see them trying to make it accessible. And like you think about like all sequels ever in video games right now, like Gears of War 4 or like Far Cry, whatever the current Far Cry of the week is. It's like there's a lot of these little things that are trying to make it, hey, anybody can play, or like even like 2 years after this game or a year after this game came out, like Mass Effect 3, it was like, hey man, I don't know, just jump just jump in, the world's over. Like games have tried so hard to be as successful as possible, and it's in a sequel-driven industry. Like the sequels that like can, in theory, do the best stuff and the most interesting stuff, like an Uncharted 4 or presumably Last of Us 2, that just have to lean on the thing that came before it to really deliver something powerful. Like they just don't succeed as much anymore.
And like Bioshock 2 very much is that style of sequel.
Yeah, and Bioshock 2 was in an era of where like all games were kind of selling okay, so that's fine.
And like it's interesting too.
And, I mean, the original Bioshock sold so well that they're like, people will buy it.
I mean, it's Bioshock, right? Like, and like that's the thing where it's like it's a weird one where it's like, man, it's like hard to like get mad at them or like critique them for being like, how would like you can't just expect them to play the game. It's like, all right, but when the game was Bioshock, it's maybe a bit more like, all right, that's it.
Same
was
thing
a game.
Worked for Infinite, you know, like it like that carried that game in a huge way.
That whole ending section is just like, you played Bioshock, you get it, and it's like, well, if you didn't,
I guess this is cool. But then, I think Infinite, it's still like, oh, this is cool. Like I know about this thing at least.
Yeah, I think with Infinite, like the ending craziness that goes on, I think as long as like you knew what Bioshock was the important thing, and not so much the story of Bioshock. It's like, oh, I get that. This looks familiar. Like you didn't need to know the whole story of like Andrew Ryan.
You didn't know who Andrew Ryan was, right? But you could still be like, this is fucking lit.
Yeah, and like it is interesting, right? Like it is a weird time capsule, which is kind of like one of the joys of like video game book club, like going back and be like, man, like it was very different in like 2010 or 2011, whatever it was. Like these kind of games are coming out, and like what the industry looked like and what they were like doing in terms of sequels. Because like even now, it's like, it'd be like The Last of Us Part 2 will be very much more like this, and then like Uncharted 4 kind of maybe, but even Uncharted 4 I felt like was like a half step, right? Where it's like, I would strongly suggest you play the other games before you play Uncharted 4, but you could definitely play Uncharted 4 and like get it, right? Like they definitely have sections just kind of like fill in who these characters are, whereas this is like, no, you get nothing. You play Bioshock 1 and then come back to us, basically.
To your point, Logan, how this plays and kind of feels like a very different time. One of the things that I came out of this section especially, and really like my feeling of not feeling strong as a big daddy was like super, I felt it even more this time, specifically with the point where you have to get the Gene camera, and it's literally behind like just a pane of glass in a store, or a door with a chain on it and a simple lock.
Yeah.
We're this giant big daddy that can hurl fireballs and freeze things, or shoot bees, or do all these things. We have a giant drill on our arm.
We have the drill attack now too.
Yeah, but we have to go all around so we can get a key or something, so we could get into the thing just to get this camera. And it drove
like fall in from the ceiling, right?
Yeah, and it's like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, they did the same exact thing in Bioshock 1 also. It literally, you see the camera on a desk through a window, and you have to go around to get it.
Yeah. I feel like that's just like a video.
That's a classic video game thing.
I know it's a video game thing, and I hate... they could have done it in so many different ways. Like,
put
it in like a rigged like safe that if you input the wrong code, it explodes and destroys the camera. So you had to find the actual code for the safe, and that's how you get it. That would,
or like in a hotel room of a named character, because we're exploring a hotel in this area. There's so many more environmentally interesting things they could have done with that.
I mean, I'd go a step further and just say, also, maybe you shouldn't even have the camera, because in no Bioshock game has it ever been an interesting tool. In fact, I'd go as far as say, like, in basically any game where I have to like take pictures of things in order to become more knowledgeable about how to beat them, I don't like that. That's inherently not fun.
It's weird that it's the video camera.
I don't. It doesn't make sense that it like studies their DNA by video recording them. That's like, bullshit. But
that's whatever. And like for me, the bigger one where it was like, oh, this feels like a game from 2010, but like not in a fun way. And, like they let you turn it off if you want to, but like, man, shout out to the giant fucking gold arrow at the top of the screen that has no chill. That is just like so too much. Like it's like, man, like I like. And I'd forgotten about that. And, like, obviously, Bioshock 1 has that, too, but I feel like Bioshock 1's areas are structured better, where it's, like, you're still kind of, like, where you're exploring flows that better, but it's, like, here I feel like the areas just, like, these are huge, I'm gonna go off the beaten path, and, like, the arrow's just, like, you're going go this way, and it's, like, bright red now, and it's, like, and it's, like, it's all, like, I'll be back. Like, it's all right. Like,
everyone
I found myself really wishing that if Arcane had done a Bioshock game in kind of the exploration, solve things how you want, Dishonored style.
I think about it every day.
That like, and this idea hit me while I was like it's behind a pane of glass and I have a giant drill on my arm. Are you serious? I can't get it. But it's just like, imagine if you could just explore and there were a bunch of different ways you could go about getting that, or all that stuff that Dishonored introduced years down the road. It's like, could we get like a Dishonored style game set in Rapture?
Especially like with their level design team. I think they'd nail it.
Literally, like,
so good.
Any modern game system, like, it's the thing, like, pretty much any team that did a game in Rapture now would be different. Who's like, how you like navigate the airs? It would just be a different game.
Like the Just Cause people made a Rapture game. Like, I don't know what the fuck that would be, but it's you just basically going through, breaking every window and flooding in
every building that you see. You can actually go inside of.
You still have like a paraglider for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason.
You have a wingsuit underwater.
The interesting one for me for Bioshock 2 is the fact that, like, and I don't know, like, it feels simultaneously, like, way more empty than Bioshock 1 did. But also at the same time, like, way busier. Like, it's like, I feel like it never strikes, like, the balance that I want it to at times, right? Where Bioshock 1 deliberately will have, like, areas where, like, it is empty to kind of be this, like, haunting, society's kind of crumbled around you, like, thing. Like, the game opens and it's a long time before you really kind of like get to like a large group of people you fight. And Bioshock 2 does the opposite. It, like, immediately throws you into deep end, but then we'll just have areas where it's like, oh, cool, and now there's nobody, and it's like, all right, well, like, now I'm ready for people, and then it'll like have you like pick up these like really, really important like bits of like exposition or like narrative like information while you're in the middle of like a fucking firefight, and it's like, I missed every word Sophia Lamb just said to me. Like, I have no idea. Like, I just heard like one bit. And it's like, they don't like, they do weird things, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I would really love. Part of me like wishes I got a Bioshock 2 game that like was actually like Ken Levine and like team like made and built from the ground up, and like they had like the whole kind of creative control over it. But like part of me also like, but also like, this is a weird. Bioshock 2 is a weird game in a lot of ways. Like, it just doesn't make, like, they just don't make games like this for a lot of reasons, for better or worse. But like, the fact that it is just like a whole different crew just came in and we're like, hey, we're gonna do this game now from Bioshock, like, makes it kind of neat and rad. And like, in the end, I think they like hit a really good note with it. But like, it is, I feel like it is them kind of like finding their groove, and you can like almost literally see it in the actual game itself at moments. which makes it kind of interesting. Like, at the very least, like, it's a cool game to kind of like navigate. I feel like, and just kind of explore, because it is like you can almost see like the like staples and like thumbtacks and like screws all put in like as it's going, because they're trying to like rush out a sequel to Bioshock as quickly as possible, and like what they did with that and what they didn't do with that, and like the combat I actually still like. I have never had an issue with Bioshock combat, and like it is the Big Daddy whatever enough is always gonna be like kind of the big question of this game, but like I still think it's neat. I still think it's fun. Like ultimately, like we all said collectively last week, like it would probably have been better if you were just a person, if you had been that dad, even
Mark Seltzer, baby.
Daughter. But like I still think ultimately like this game is doing and does cool, neat things, and like it's weird for like me and Alex to keep being like, just wait for the end, but like it's here now, like we're in it, and like it is the part where like I feel like they finally kind of lined up their shot and like really, at like whether or not it holds up or whether or not like it's as good as we remember it is like one thing, but like it is at the very least like it's what they wanted Bioshock 2 to be. Like Bioshock 2's like final act we're about to play is what they wanted the whole game to be. I feel like it's what like it's them actually nailing the tone and vibe and characters and like combat, and like it's like everything kind of came in the way they wanted to. And so like, at least like that's where the game I feel like is the most like what it actually is.
And Minerva's Den, from what I understand.
I haven't played that, but yeah, I've heard people rave about that DLC. I'm very excited to play that.
Yeah. Two things. One of the things that like logically kind of going off what your issues was, Scott, of like not being able to get through this window for no particular reason. I hated that you get the drill charge ability by filming the big splicer guys and not the big daddies that do the drill charge. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
And I feel like it's underutilized, because at least I haven't found really many other places you can charge through.
It is mostly a combat move.
It's, like, it's an attack that fucks people up.
It is not necessarily like...
Okay, so it's not...
They don't lean into the Metroidvania aspect of it, of like, now you can get through this part of the game. Because you can't backtrack necessarily through parts of the game.
Yeah, because I've seen places with like tonics and things behind like cross 2x4s. It's like, I'll charge through and be like, no.
No, you come in through the ceiling on those ones too.
It's like,
but
I have a giant ceiling.
Yeah, it's madness. But the other thing is, I will say, the game has a good flow to it. Of like, the combat feels good. When you get a little sister, when you're setting up the little traps, like as much as they are like the turret sequence of this game, right? Of like, it's a PS3 360 game. It has like whatever of that era bullshit is there, and that's this. It's the lay down these little sisters and gather some shit, and watch a meter fill up. That is totally it. But like I said, I think the environments in this part of it are more interesting. Like I particularly like the one on the balcony of the theater where there's a gathering spot there, and it's got kind of like two entrances and these two hallways and seats kind of protecting you. It's a good spot to lay out traps. Once you get the grenade launcher with the proximity mines that you launch out, it becomes more interesting as well. And it feels good. It feels good to go through that flow, and it feels cyclical in a good way. Like a little bit of a dopamine rush, and you get the two gatherer spots, you rescue the little sister, you get a bunch of Adam, get some more upgrades, rinse and repeat. It's it's the stuff like getting a little sister to fucking spawn that bother me, but I think there is a defensible flow here. It's a thing that Nabish and I always talk about. Like a game with a good flow, it is like kind of something in of itself. Things like roguelikes tend to fill in those things, but I think Bioshock 2 just has a good flow.
And like to that point, as much as we've all collectively, or certainly I have said like there are some problems with like the little sister stuff, it's so much better than the turret thing in Bioshock 1. Like it's just so much better. Like the turret, like dealing with the turrets in Bioshock 1 and like putting the fucking like puzzle pieces together.
Oh yeah,
was, like,
the little hacking minion.
It was like that was fine, but like also like, man, that was a good decision.
Just way streamlined in this game.
Yeah, that was just way better done in this game. So much so.
Yeah, it's a lot.
What didn't I know you've been a little quiet tonight, Mike. What did you specifically not really like about the big sister fights? Because you mentioned that you like the sandboxiness of it, but those big sister fights are dumb.
We kind of just everyone's just kind of been saying everything I was ultimately gonna say tonight so far. So that's why I haven't chimed in too much. But I just like how the game has for me like. I think it's just the discrepancy of how we've all been playing it differently. Of like, you guys are kind of scouring for everything, and I'm just kind of not necessarily beelining it, but just kind of like staying more focused.
Yeah, I'm playing like you are.
Yeah, I'm not going through looking for I'm looking more so for like ammo and health pickups and like all that kind of stuff, and I'm just looking for like I'll pick up audiobooks if I see them just out of like habit, but I probably have not listened to like the majority of them unless they just kind of automatically throw them on.
Most of them you'll find, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of space out during half of them as well.
Yeah, because that's exactly what it is. Of like, I think Logan touched on it too. Of like, I usually don't even bother with them because 9 times out of 10 I'll pick one up and then like it'll be playing and then I'll get into a gunfight and then I miss like 90% of what they're actually talking about anyway. So it's like it's always kind of lost on me. And the same and like a similar thing with like the big sisters. Or the little sisters, excuse me. Like I will get them if I run into them. I don't actively just kind of wait around. Like you saying like if you just follow Big Daddy around, you'll eventually get one. I didn't even know it was a thing because I would see Big Daddies and they wouldn't have one. I'd just be like, all right, whatever, cool, and just like walk away from it and just go continue the thing. And then if it had like if I saw Big Daddy and had a little sister, then I would fight it and get the little sister and do all this stuff. But otherwise, I would just be like, whatever. I feel I've. So far through this game, I've not felt like that, like
the need to complete
the need and like the like I am strapped for like ammunition or like abilities stuff to use my abilities. So I've kind of always felt like I don't need to like go to my way to find every single thing because I've just kind of been fine. So like, but I. On the other end of that, I feel like I'm so strapped up again because we're like a big daddy and we have all these weapons, and now I have like so many plasma bills. I like that I've kind of like lost, not necessarily lost track, but like gotten less interested in like what's even really going on in the story, because like you guys talked a lot of poignant points of like I kind of said before like I like this setup of it being sort of like more an ensemble, and then instead of it just being this one bigger villain like it was in Bioshock 1, where now it's like Sophia's kind of trying to fill that role, but not necessarily doing the best job of it right now where the game is. But like we're getting these cool scenes where we're going in through Grace's like area where it's like it's basically like now it's her story and it's about this little like chunk of Rapture, and then we go to the place with the two brothers, and then with the reporter guy in the Dionysus Park. Like I liked kind of those more so like one-off like story that you're getting this like bite-sized story of like here's what it was like just in this random part of Rapture, not necessarily like what's going on through the entire city. Like I kind of liked that aspect more so than the bigger trying threads that they're trying to still do with trying to pull like, you know, hey, remember Bioshock 1? We're still trying to, you still kind of have that here, but we're all going to try and tell these little stories at the same time. So I think that them trying to do both kind of is basically, I became less interested in the one because you already got a better version of that from Bioshock 1.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to, but there's still at least these smaller stories that are cool and like kind of cool.
And in a way, like that, those aspects are like the strongest parts of the first half of Bioshock 1 as well, right? Like, I think Bioshock 1 had a tendency to make it a lot more black and white. Of like by the time you get to these areas, each area's villain is like very much a villain, and it's a little bit grayer in Bioshock 2. Like
I think,
and
a
little bit more.
And the one exception to that, right, is like the like Art Deco crazy guy who like is like not like a Ryan Stooge, who is kind of like more just like off doing his own weird experiments and like is still like problematic, but also is like he's not like. He's like the one who like isn't necessarily out to just fucking murder you.
He's putting like like drywall on people and turning them.
Yeah, I mean like he's definitely like crazy, but like not in a like I'm gonna kill you crazy to like us, like directly like he's more just like I'm just out here existing. Like you can just like do your thing, like he's married, but like I'm not necessarily here to like, and like that's why I think he's also like usually one of the ones who like everybody talks about in that game is because he's more just like a
you know, like the thing about all
like
the
kind of existing in that space.
The thing about all those characters in Bioshock 1 is they obstruct your way at some point, you know, and you have to go through them. Like the doctor from the first part, the artist from the second part, and then Ryan like puts out the poisonous gas when you get to the gardens, which I think is the third part. But then like the character who runs the gardens is what gives you like the antitoxin for the plants, or it's Tenenbaum or something, right? So yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I like the little stories and like this environment that's built up around this character, right? Like Dionysus part being flooded, and that's like part of that, the character of that environment's story, and the aesthetic maybe doesn't thematically coincide with them, but it does coincide with their actions, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I've been enjoying that a lot, and I just like, but I've enjoyed that aspect, but I think it is like, since there's not really like I've not really been invested in the like larger story going on of, you know, Sophia and like saving Eleanor and all that stuff. I think I've just kind of found the enjoyment in to now that I have all the abilities of Bioshock, like in a Bioshock game of like I have all these plasmids, I have all the guns with the different ammo types and upgrading them every time I see a thing. I like it's like I like being able to just like set up like a cool like, you know, setting up a bunch of rivets in the wall. Like it's I enjoy, it's just like you can kind of cheese a lot of stuff with them though, in a way, like at least I found
mini
with, like,
turrets, man,
rivets.
those things kill everything.
I've been using a lot of the trap rivets, and basically I'll just you can like whenever I get into a big daddy fight, it's basically just like, oh, go to kind of shoot the nearest wall, and I just put like 20 of them in the wall right there, then just give them a run at me, and then just like 20 of them just like go into the dude's face, and then he just has like almost like a quarter to half his health is already gone immediately, and then you can just kind of dump into him, and it's still like fun though. But I've just found a lot of just like experimenting with like, you know, setting up those or setting up like spear traps, like obnoxious spear traps are like across the entire room for no reason, but let's see how many dudes run into it, or setting up like bombs and proximity mines, and setting up like I got like the plasma that puts wind traps, so you can like put a trap down, and if a dude runs into it, he just like goes flying ragdoll into the air, and you can just kind of dump into him. So like that aspect has just been like kind of silly and fun, and it reminded me of just like, yeah, like that kind of weird fancy nature of the combat in Bioshock is really good.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yes, very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of guns. They give you a lot of guns.
I like the spear gun. That's impaling dudes to walls. Very, very rewarding.
Yeah, and there's like you said, there's a lot of guns, and they all have like their multiple like shots. Like you have your double barrel shotgun, but then you also have like the phosphorus shots where you can shoot into dudes, then they'll like ignite them into fire and stuff. It's just, it has like a lot of cool variety. And
now I have a 6-barrel shotgun.
Yeah, you can just mix it.
I've fully upgraded my shotgun.
Yeah, me too. It's very good. Yeah, I know we haven't talked about the guns a lot, but there's some good guns in this game.
Yeah, some neat stuff.
I wish they felt better overall, but they feel
they feel like an early, like 2010 video first-person shooter. It definitely you can definitely feel the age on some of the shooting stuff. But I guess to your original point, I put down that I didn't like the big sister fights. A lot of it was kind of what Logan said though, of like I just don't like how they are set up, and like I didn't realize they were in tune to the multiple, like you're clearing out an area and that's when they'll show up. Like I was just kind of just doing my thing, and like I would run to a big sister, or I'd run to a little sister with a big daddy, and I would save her just when I was going through the game. And so like those big sister fights seemed completely random to me, because I'm just playing it like and just going through it main. So it's just kind of like, it feels like they always just feel like unnecessary, because like you said, there's like not a lot of reward to them, and they just felt like they kept popping up out of nowhere, and it just feels like, oh, I have to stop everything I'm doing, but I'm trying to like continue on and do this through the story part, or find whatever. and then I just have to like stop everything and then just like hunker down and then just wait for her. Then just like even though like they'll say like the big sister's here, like sometimes she doesn't immediately show up, and you're just kind of like, all right, where are you? And like, and she's clearly like, it's old video games, and she's like running around like lost somewhere. Like I had one attack me. It was like in that Dionysus Park area where you're in the theater. Like I was like in the theater saving that little sister. Like did that, and that's when one showed up. And like she like the big sister couldn't figure out how to get into the theater. Like it would like run up to the door and like be like stuck in the door, then like run away and back outside. So I'd like go outside of the theater and like try and fight her outside there. And I already had like a bunch of like turrets that I hacked in that area, so they just like dumped into her. But it was just like really silly. And I was like, this is clearly an old video game thing, because she's just like awkwardly trying to run this door and then just is like, no, I can't do that, and then just like runs away and kept doing it for a couple times. And
that sounds right. I think that happened to me at one point too.
Yeah, it just those fights just like I guess it's just because of how I'm playing. Like they just felt like random, and they like kind of halt the progress of like everything that's going on around. They just and like you take and like they're not really like super difficult fights now, especially because I have so many weapons.
You're a walking army. Basically.
Plasmids, yeah. I'm just like a one-man army, and they just kind of show up. Oh, I dump into them, I take him out, and I get like barely anything for it.
Yeah. God help if she discovers the technology of window panes or panes of glass or.
Technically, she did already. Remember that time in the beginning where she like does that
smashed open the entire thing,
the giant window.
Yeah,
I haven't seen her do that again.
I'm talking about using it on you.
Oh yeah.
Just holding up a pane of glass in front of her, be like, "What now?"
Oh yeah. What are you gonna do now, motherfucker?
Can't get through.
You have a weakness. You do the drill charge and it does nothing.
Scott's saltiness over this camera being behind a pane of windows so
it's
much.
Just,
just like
this is valid.
Like a thing that I think that's probably happened in like a billion videos.
It has,
but it's just like, and
especially video games from that like time period of like.
I know, and I'm trying not to blame it too much because it is like it's a very period heavy piece, but like nowadays it's just like I have a giant drill on my arm and I shoot bees.
Yeah.
Why can't I just like
the bees
knock it? Like just melee it and crash it. Like,
yeah.
And I think I was
physics.
I've been spoiled from games like Dishonored or Prey or kind of those. We have this environment. Figure out or find your own way through. Deus Ex.
Yeah. It's so funny because like. In a lot of ways, I think like Dishonored would not exist without Bioshock.
Not at all.
Yeah, but I would love to see all of that knowledge put back into Bioshock. You know.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Let's just play Dishonored for the next book club.
I mean, it's to me, it's in the same way of like Uncharted made Tomb Raider better ultimately, right? Like I would love to see what like a post Dishonored Bioshock would look like, where it has like those kind of inspirations to pull from now. Like it has just the fact that it's been 6 years since the Bioshock game anyway. Like the video game industry has changed, games, how we've made them have changed. So it's like, what would a modern Bioshock look like? In a lot of ways, would be really curious and interesting and exciting to see.
Yeah. So maybe one of my personal biggest missed opportunities in Infinite was them not going and applying those things that the games that learned from Bioshock did, and instead just kind of doing Bioshock again. I think that's good, but like I just mean in like a very linear, and then there are some choices kind of.
It seems like it was made like more like potentially and purposely made maybe in a vacuum.
Yeah,
try and just, like make it
and
it feel authentic, I guess.
Much like all video games, I think it benefits from being outside of the vacuum. You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We know what Bioshock fans want, and it's Bioshock. So
let me tell you about Bioshock, the first one.
Let me tell you about System Shock, the real first one.
Oh yeah, bring me back.
New one's coming out.
Coming somewhere, someday.
New one's coming out
someday.
But I think here's a good stopping point. Any closing thoughts from any of you guys?
Bioshock 2 is a video game.
I'm enjoying my time playing Bioshock 2. I want to.
I've come back around on it.
Yeah,
like,
I like Bioshock 2 a lot still. Like, that doesn't change.
It's found its stride a lot. I think like we're being to some extent a little nitpicky, like rightfully so, about the problems with it.
I think again it goes back to that weird. It's 2019 and we're playing like a 9-year-old game. Like, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to see where like it falls apart in a lot of cases. Yeah, that's just how it is. Like that, I would even say it's like this game by itself. Like, there's plenty of games.
Yeah, like we have the benefit of foresight, right? Like, we've seen what comes after this, but I don't know. Like I said, it's been really interesting to look at Bioshock 2 as like there are a lot of 2s of the era that I would compare this to, like Gears of War 2, Dead Space 2, a game that I get so many Dead Space 2 vibes from this game. I don't know if it's the same for you, Mike, having played 1 and 2 of that.
Even you saying Gears of War 2 is like brings you back to that very specific era of like, we're just making sequels for everything, y'all.
We're doing it again, but bigger this time. And like,
that was
to some extent,
that era.
I'm in for that. And like I said in the first episode, being in Rapture is just fucking rad. And
that's the thing.
Yeah, anytime I can spend a significant amount of time there, I'm in. But you know, that doesn't mean it doesn't come with problems. So.
And like, I definitely feel like we have been like, not overly, but like we've definitely focused more on the negatives episode. I feel like than the positives, right? Because like ultimately, like I still enjoy my time in this game. I still enjoy, like I adore Rapture. Like that'll never not be true, right? And like there are cool moments. Like this game, I still do love, like the kind of gameplay mechanics, right? In terms of like the creepy, haunting, atmospheric nature in a way that Bioshock Infinite doesn't really catch on. Like Bioshock is never really creepy or haunting or atmospheric in the same way for me. And like I love that this game is. I really like that I do get like kind of jump scared at moments. Right, there are like kind of spooky things, and like it is fun to play too. Which seems like a silly kind of trite thing to say, but it isn't. Right, like especially looking at like past games and Video Game Book Club and games you might do in the future. It's like the game is just enjoyable to play. Like it is a fun video game to play, and like there are moments where that's less true, but like it's a lot of fun to play. It's an enjoyable game to play, right? And like I think, and I know that I know I personally did this last week too, where it's like look forward to what's coming next, but like what comes next is cool because it does feel like it is that marriage of like the fun gameplay and this like amazing like unique world and cool characters finally all coming together in like really really neat like areas and levels. And like I'm very excited to see what you in particular think of the ending, where we kind of actually do get obviously like an idea of what this game was kind of all building up to and what it was kind of all about.
Oh yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's just like the little things where it's just like that kind of pulls me out of my suspense of disbelief and things. But I think I think the gameplay is really cool, fun. I think the gameplay is good for the time it came out, and I still love Rapture as a world and an environment. I think it's such a cool aesthetic, and I'm really surprised even now no one's really done it since.
And
I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm looking forward to, like you guys have said, how the ending picks up. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it picks up and finding out what Lamb is really up to. So I'm definitely excited, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, and I want to see it through. It's just I'm not perfect, curious how I would have felt had I played it back when it came out.
2010.
Yeah.
But
I'm the most curious how you will feel about playing Bioshock 1 after this game.
Yes, that's what I'm super...
Because I think playing this first, weirdly, I think is going to really enrich that experience. I don't think it's going to hurt it at all.
Yeah.
I could see that.
And I feel like if you wanted to like play through that through like streams or something on your own over time, I would show up.
Cool.
Every single time, just because I want to know how you feel.
And it's interesting too because like it is almost like it does serve as like an effective prequel to Bioshock 1 in a lot of ways. It's like, man, where it's like, but it's like, man, like it fills in a lot of details and like actually like flesh out a lot of the characters of Bioshock 1, even though it comes like 9 years after. And it's like, I'm super curious to see. I mean, obviously because Bioshock 1 is one of my favorite games, but like, Very curious for your thoughts.
I'll have to ponder that. I'll have to think of.
Let me pitch you on something here, Scott. Imagine Rapture, right? But you kind of like make your own character, you develop your own story for it, and you have to pick a faction, kind of like a side of like, do I side with Andrew Ryan or Sophia Lamb? And you're a splicer, and it takes place before the fall of Rapture because that's what the multiplayer for this game was, and there was like a whole story for it and everything.
I was gonna say that sounds like a multiplayer mode from this time period.
Yeah, right.
The multiplayer in Bioshock 2 actually was not bad. It was
not bad.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed the multiplayer.
It could have been better, but it was like, it was of the era where it was clearly like an afterthought, where they were like, "Oh, we gotta put multiplayer in this game."
But it was a cool afterthought. Like they did, cool.
They had an idea for it. It was not.
It was neat window dressing on it too, like the like loading menu thing and like area kind of starting was like really cool. Like your like apartment stuff and like it like slowly deteriorated if you played enough of it.
Yeah. It's cool.
That does sound neat. That does sound neat. But that is going to do it for here. For the next checkpoint, we will be finishing the base Bioshock 2 game.
Pretty simple.
Yes. Very easy to understand. This will be a 4-parter game because after beating Bioshock 2, we'll be moving on to Minerva's Den, which is the DLC, the story DLC for Bioshock 2. So this isn't the end of Bioshock 2 on Book Club, but we will be finishing the base game for next time. So look forward to that if you're playing along with us. And as always, let's find out, where can people find all you lovely people online? Let's start with Mike. Give him some more lovely audio screen time. Mike, where can people find you? What have you been up to?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike Hits the Wall, all one word. I tweet sometimes, some dumb shit. Other than that, you can find me over on like a lot of the content I make for the site over on YouTube.com, right here on YouTube.com/Irrational Passions. If you're watching us live,
True.
Yeah, there's some. We're working on some stuff in the background. that I'm excited to get up on soon. Some of it might be up by the time this episode is out in a edited form. So
next Wednesday or next Friday. So
I look forward to that.
17th, I want to say. This will be out the 17th.
It sounds right. Yeah,
17th or 16th, one of the two.
Yeah. Mr. Alex, what about you?
I am on Twitter, Alfighter27. Never not tweeting. If I'm not tweeting, I'm reading tweets. So it all comes together. It is my life now. I host Irrational Passions podcast. You should listen to that. We talked about cotton in the most recent episode. Upon recording.
Eli Whitney made the content.
Yeah. Ripping fat cotton. And there might be, I might have a Sekiro review up soon, or not. We'll see. There's a lot.
Cool.
I have 77 notes sitting in that Google Docs.
That's before I've even stepped into it too.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, there might be a discussion, a review discussion about it too.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe have the review figured out. That's why it would have been done earlier otherwise. But look for those. Those will be happening. There'll
be something Sekiro. By the way, just picked up the Sekiro guide. Came. So good.
How much art is in there?
Oh, it's got some very lovely art.
I'm jealous.
Lots of good maps.
That's a good video game.
It is a good video game. This will teach me how to beat the fire boar.
You got this. Let me tell you about firecrackers. They will change how you play that game.
Excellent. Mr. Logan, what about you? We'll say.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? What you got cooking?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Google Pixel, at Lefty Logie.
That's a phone.
Google Plus is also not a thing anymore.
At Lefty Logie, and I'm always tweeting good things there. You can do that. I also am in the midst of doing a review thing, just like Alex's Sekiro review. My Days Gone one is happening. Here's the thing. Spoiler alert for my Days Gone review. Days Gone, too long of a video game.
I feel like you've been getting a lot of that recently.
You know what? Video games maybe just need to chill out a little bit, guys. How about that pitch? That's my elevator pitch. That's my next feature.
There's a nice, good length video game.
I need to play a video game on my flight tomorrow. I might play Grease. I might finish. Actually, I might do Grease. That's a short game, and also it's beautiful.
It's great.
How long's your flight?
I'm flying to Missouri, so like
that doesn't tell me anything. I'm
2
2
hours, like maybe, like 2 hours.
2 hours, I think.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Grease is a good 2 hour flight game.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'll play it there on Thursday. And if I'm not done yet, finish it on the way back. Maybe chip away a little bit while I'm in Missouri.
Nice.
So check that out. Also, check out all the wonderful stuff on irrationalpassions.com. Input is up to episode 91, I believe. By the time you listen to this podcast, it'll be episode 94 going live, because that's how math works. And then do all those fun things. IPP, I hear they talk about cotton there. Sounds pretty scandalous. There was an episode featuring Jess.
That same cotton episode.
Yeah, and then by the time you heard this, other people will have been on it. Probably one of us three. And so check all of that out. I will have features. Alex will have features. Scott will have features about just video games in general, probably. I would assume it seems like a safe bet. So check all of that out. And keep an eye out on future fun, exciting things. Please be excited for E3.
Yes.
I'm proud to announce it.
2019.
E3.
How are we already less than a month away? Or like a month away.
It was a joke, but also we're there, yeah.
Yeah, we live in a nightmare hellscape.
We're going to start seeing some announcements like literally the day
tomorrow is going to be, we have like fucking crazy info drop. We have like a Sony day of play. We have Monster Hunter news.
We got Persona news.
There's a new Ghost.
We do?
Yeah.
There's more Persona 5 The Royal news coming.
Shit.
Tomorrow.
There's
that's the thing. Yeah.
GT Goku's coming to Dragon Ball Fighters.
They don't chill.
That's cool.
Everybody relax.
And this is also the thing of like
this is the time gamers rise up and go.
Gamer rose up for this moment, right? Where it's like, well, and also the thing of like,
the time
you
of
have
the year.
PAXs, and by the time like you've recovered from PAX, you have to get ready for like E3, and then that ends, and you have to get ready for the next PAX, and it's like, all right, cool, nothing else except for Extra Life, and then it's like, cool, that's over. Oh, shout out to 3 weeks later, Game of the Year time, and it's like, yeah, it just never ends, man.
Yeah.
Game of the Year like for our sacrifices here.
The time between Game of the Year and PAX East is like the most of a break we'll ever get.
Yep.
It's already over.
That's true. And we've already done it, guys.
That was a lovely 2.5 weeks. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
What about you, Scott?
People can find me on Twitter at SolidSnake120. I also stream over on Twitch.tv/Irrational Passions. I've been doing Mega Man. I've been doing some Final Fantasy V. I've been doing all sorts of stuff. And I would say it's a probably safe bet I'll be streaming some Bioshock here in the next little bit. So
I love that.
I would love that too.
We'll probably be doing that.
Y'all motherfuckers heard about Bart's? Because Scott knows about Bart's.
I do. I named him Ip.
Yep.
But yeah, randomizers, man, I love him. It's good.
Randomizers seem cool.
Yeah. Well, everybody, that is going to do it for Video Game Book Club Episode 2 of Bioshock. This is the 13th episode, if you're keeping count of Video Game Book Club. Oh, look at... You kind of look like the Persona 5 antagonist, or protagonist right there. With those glasses and the dark hair.
Shine on the glasses
Ren.
so you can't actually see his eyes.
Or Akira. He was Ren at one point, but whatever. But yes, thank you for stopping in, and hope you enjoyed this episode of Video Game Book Club. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it live streamed. Our discussion is always live streamed, and then we post a very pretty edited version coming to podcast services shortly. We have
Scott is on it now, so it'll actually get done.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. But until then, everybody, remember, next checkpoint is to complete Bioshock 2. And until then, everybody,
bums,
have a good one, and thanks for stopping by.
Bye. Bye.